You know where all of this adverse childhood experience stuff came from? It came from an obesity clinic.
Wow.
He's working in an obesity clinic in the 80s, and 50% of the people who are a part of his clinic, they're losing weight, but then at some point they just stop and they jump out of the program. And so I'm deep diving into this. And what happened was, I've never met the guy, but I'm reading up on his stuff, right? And this should resonate. What ends up happening is he starts researching and asking questions of all the people who had dropped out of the program. And he made this one critical mistake. He's asking this one young lady. He meant to ask her, how old were you when you were first sexually active? That's what he meant to ask her. But instead, he asks her, how much did you weigh when you were first sexually active? Her response was 40 pounds. Come to find out, she was a victim of sexual abuse by her father, right? And so then a light bulb goes off and he says, wait a minute, is this a common thing, right? And he brings in somebody else to study this. And yes, it's a common thing. And it's in the research that 90% of folks who are grossly overweight, like we were, right, experience some type of sexual trauma, right? Now, that wasn't my case, but the traumas are there. And then, for instance, this one, he interviewed one young lady who at 23 years old, she was sexually assaulted at 23. She was raped. You know what happened the very next year? She gained 105 pounds. Because what he finds is weight becomes a defense. Absolutely. When you're a child, and there are these words that are said to you when you're being violated, words such as, the only reason I do this to you is because your sister is fat. Well, that tells a child, if I eat and gain weight, then I won't get assaulted, right? So that's the long way of answering your question. It really comes down to this. You have to do the work on you. Nobody's coming to your house. Nobody's going to send you letters and tell you to do on it. Now, the blessing for some of us is if you happen to have won some money from the show, well, now you had money to go figure out the rest of your life, right? But for those who did not win anything, you can still pick up a book. You can still ask those who have gone before you, such as Michelle and myself, who are successful. You can be inquisitive and try to figure your life out. It was designed to do one thing, show you what success looked like in that short time frame. The rest is on you, baby.
The part that's been frustrating for me, and I'm going to be completely transparent, is there's no question that bashing The Biggest Loser has become a narrative of and I'm not tin-hatting this. If you remember Fatima Cody Stanford, who's a spokesperson for Novo Nordisk that makes Ozempic, paid for a big commercial on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl right after New Year's a couple years ago. And the first thing she did was bash The Biggest Loser and talk about how diet and exercise don't work. You can never lose weight and keep it off. It's a physical disease of the brain. And I don't mean trauma. I mean, you just can't stop eating. And all by the way, parroting research paid for by Novo Nordisk. And then Michelle reaches out to me a couple months ago and she's like, I don't want to say the name of the magazine because they've been so kind to me, but a huge magazine. She's like, has come fishing around trying to get dirt on Biggest Loser. I didn't give them any, but I found it really odd. Yeah. So they didn't print anything she talked about, anything any of the other contestants who told me they went to her talked about. And they talked about Ryan Benson, who was a contestant from 20 years ago, season 1. And I thought, okay, who is going out of their way right now to go 20 years into the first season? And he didn't even really say anything that bad. He's like, I think the show wanted us to fail and I struggled to keep my weight off. But for me, that's a dangerous narrative because if anybody's going to point to something outside of pharmaceuticals that they remember from their lifetime, it's going to be Biggest Loser. Right. So if you immediately say, not only did they all gained it back, they were far worse off, and what about these horrible studies? And I'm sitting there going, that's an absolute lie. 35% of them kept it up. That percentage is bananas. And I was like, that's it. We're going to hear from them, period. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.